Well, this ain't good. More sludge, more water. I ain't sure where that came from, but I'm glad it's in the pan so I can get it out, because I'd have never known that it was in there. Guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Tonight, about 12 o'clock. Usually about time to start this crap. Finally getting back to the old S10. As you can tell, it's in pieces behind me. Literally, pieces. So it looks a heck of a lot better. Kind of updated a little bit. I did this, about 5 years ago. And the paint lasted this long, and I actually recoated it with the exact same paint that I used the last time. It's engine enamel. This stuff, engine enamel. It's black, shiny black. Stuff's went up though. It's like $8 a can now. It used to be like $6 a can. Alright. Anyway, and then the frame part where the mounts go, and kind of like from here and around and all that, I actually coated it with a different stuff. Some undercoating by 3M, rubberized undercoating, so it'll last between oil leaks and power steering leaks and who knows what else could happen, because when I put this in, I don't plan to take it back out unless it blows up again. And we're not going to talk about that. But anyway, it's smooth to the touch. Sorta has that rough look, and I like the color that it makes whenever it dries. You can see the shiny part where I finished it. Did the tunnel. The firewall I fixed a few months back. I actually had another plug in here that fell out. I used a plug for a freeze plug expander, the type that you put in and you tighten it down and it expands. Well, that lasted for so long, and then it started letting heat in whenever it got hot, and then the same thing when it hit wintertime. So, and anytime that I clean the engine bay up, I'd get water inside the cab. So I went ahead to the junkyard, found the actual plug, silicone the snot out of it, shoved that in there, and that's good to go. Hopefully the headers do not mount that. I'm a little worried, concerned. We'll see. But that's the actual type that would be in there if it had a wiring harness, because the truck was an actual 2.5 fuel injection, so, it had that hole already cut in the firewall. If it was actually factory carbureted, it'd never have that hole. So did the arms for the bumper, did the frame mounts, brackets, all those are painted. I left the stickers, I wanted to kind of leave that on there. So everything's looking good, firewall, all that stuff. I gotta fix some things in the wiring harness. I'll go over a lot more of this later on. I may just fix it and not really show, but here's some of it. The ground wire to the back that goes to the wiring harness, that's got to be fixed. It's all frayed, starting to corrode. And there was a connector or something that I've got to fix. I went ahead and bought a whole nother wiring harness for the headlights and blinkers for the front from another junkyard truck, because look at this. Now I did this, the butt shrimp or shrink, whatever you call it, connectors. Can't really talk at the moment. I did those because the connector for the blinker socket was messed up. So I replaced that guy. It's brand new, but it's junk. The ground keeps coming out, as you can see. I have to keep pushing it back in. The socket part's messed up and it's loose. You can move it, and you're not supposed to be able to do that. It's brand new. It shouldn't do that. Factory does better than the aftermarket junk. So we're going to go back with the factory stuff. There's this stuff I don't like. That'll set up corrosion in a heartbeat. Don't know why that was put in here. They had some kind of weather wire hooked up to the wiring harness. I don't know. It's everywhere. It's even down here to the other part. And this too. There's two more. So there's like 4 of these little clip-on connectors. I don't know how long they've been on here, but they're pretty old. I think they've been on here actually since I've owned the truck. So we're going to take care of that. But the main thing is getting the engine and transmission completed to where it needs to be to stick them back into this truck. Now the first thing I want to do is I went ahead and bought a torque converter for it, factory. It's like 160 bucks, brand new, remanufactured. We'll see how that goes. This one kind of made a whining noise at times at idle, whether it be in drive or park, didn't matter. It made a whining noise. Hoping it's not the actual transmission pump, because when you would rev it, it would go away. So we had a torque converter. Went ahead and picked up another front seal. I put a seal in it like 4 years ago when I put this stuff together. So, I'm going to go ahead and do it since it's already out. I don't want to have leaks later on, because I don't really want to touch any of this ever again. The seal was like $4. So, I'm not going to do a rim rain seal. A lot of people are going to question why. Well, because the engine was rebuilt some time ago. I don't think it was done to where, you know, it was 10 years ago or something like that. I want to say in the last 4 years, if that. The carburetor that was on this motor originally, that I got from the buddy of mine, was dated in 2019. So 4 years ago is when I'm guessing all this was kind of redone. Who knows? He could have bought the carburetor before then and then done the engine. I don't know. Either way, I'm not going to touch the rim rain seal. It's a two-piece seal, 5.5 millimeter. It doesn't leak. However, the cam seal down here, the spider webs from sitting, cam seal down there is replaced. The little cap seal gasket. It's like a couple bucks. That's what was leaking. I actually thought it was rim rain, but it was actually that running down and soaking all this and then dripping down on the exhaust. So that's fixed. The box painted. I need to kind of go over it at least one more coat, get some of the spider webs off, and covered up the ports with actual 2-liter soda Dr. Pepper caps. If that shows you how it's small, extremely small the exhaust ports are, yeah, that's saying something. That's pretty bad. I'm going to try to find some exhaust manifold bolts or header bolts, because the ones that came off of it are really bad, corroded, like rusty, and you can't get in there with a socket. You can barely get in there with a wrench, and there's really no room with the header in the way. Anybody that knows headers, especially JB, you know what I'm talking about. You got headers on your Blazer and that trash truck, so you know what I'm talking about when it comes to headers. But I want to find the ones that have the Allen head style, so it's a lot easier to put the bolts in and take them out, because the ones I have, they're a pain. So here's the ones came out, and you can't see that. Here's what I was talking about. See how the head's made? Now it's a 12 point. No, actually that's a 6 point. But either way, the problem is getting a wrench in there with the header pipe in the way. It's just, it ain't working. Here's the headers. I've already painted them since the last time you seen them. They're in way better shape now. So hopefully that'll kind of last. We'll see how that paint does. Never really used header paint, so it's got like 2 or 3 coats on it. I may coat it one more time just to use the rest of the can and make sure these don't rust. But with the pipe of how it curves, at least one of these, the underneath spout, I know for the passenger side is a pain, which is this pipe here. The underneath pipe, you see how it's bent downward? It is extremely hard to get that bolt into that hole down there and then onto the head like it's supposed to be. There's just no... So, clean the oil pan, clean the gasket surface, clean the oil pump, turned it upside down, back the other way, clean the oil pump out because of the metal stuff I found in the pan and everything. Trying to just, you know, give it the best life I can. Well, this ain't good. Look at this. Come on. And it's not gonna focus. Alright, yeah, you see the beads? Little round balls. Not trying to give you the finger, but yeah. Not good. Not good at all. That is from the oil pan. Now, I cleaned the oil pan out. It's completely cleaned. It's in the window tray underneath. And I've been pulling this stuff out like crazy. Like, you can hear it as it hits the thing, it bounces. They're little tiny beads. Not good. So that tells me this engine has ate a lot of metal. Those small little beads are most definitely capable of passing the oil pump. So the oil pump's chewed them up. Then it's sent this gray metallic stuff, like the old motor did, through the bearings. And then after a period of time, it'll start rattling, knocking, you know, and we'll be doing this job again in another couple years, if it even lasts that long. Tray. You see that buildup? Look at that. That is nothing but buildup and beads. You see those little tiny balls everywhere? I've literally been taking my hand, digging underneath here, pulling it out, and that's what was on my hands. So, needless to say, that's not good. Alright, several hours later, another day. Got the new front pump seal in it. Here's the old one. Use the old trick if you didn't know how to do it. Well, you take a wood screw, or one that has teeth on it, like this one does, and tap it in barely with a hammer, and use a drill it in. But you don't want to go all the way out because you'll nick the inside bore of the front pump, and that's aluminum, and you don't want to do that. Anyway, you take 2 vice grips, one this way, and then hook the other one this way, take a hammer, tap it out, and out she goes. So that's done. I got the new converter, $160 later. I need to fill it up with transmission fluid. I don't know how much these things hold. I would assume probably about 3 quarts or so, maybe 4. It's not that big. That one actually looks bigger than this one. Yeah, that's a little weird. I need to measure real quick, make sure that this is the right one before putting it all together and finding out that I'd have to pull the transmission back out. But oil pan is now cleaned. After having sleep and thinking smarter, I figured, well, I don't have another pan. I don't feel like taking the other pan off to you know, clean it and then throw it on, because I don't know what metal is in that pan from the old engine, because it had a lot of metallic stuff in the oil. So anyway, I took some gasoline, soaked the pan with it, took a toothbrush, got in behind it, or underneath the window tray, and completely cleaned the inside of there. You see it's all clean now. Alright. Crappy gasket is put on, and I have lathered it up both sides with gasket maker. 90-minute, the right stuff, best stuff in the world. It's like $13 a tube, but it'll seal. The most thing I'm worried about leaking is the rear, because I'm not doing the rear main seal, but this rear area where this little seal has to go, and then this spot where the timing cover's at. You have to put a little bit across the timing cover, underneath the gasket, and on top, and make sure that you lather it up right here on both sides as well, because it will leak. Oil pan is clean, and it's ready to be bolted on. You can actually see grooves in the pan, I guess where they painted it, but you can see it's uneven, so they didn't get the lip on it right. But either way, what I'm getting at is they didn't let it dry or something when they put this together. Maybe they were in a hurry. That'd be my idea, because of how much of a mess this thing is, with the beads and crap I found in the pan and into the intake. The timing cover bolts were loose, intake bolts were loose. I mean, I'm amazed that it made it as far as it did. Yeah, you see that? There's a gap there. Come to this side. Yeah, see the gap? Alright, man. I don't understand why it's not going on right. I only have one gasket, one shot at this. I cannot mess up that gasket or I'm screwed. Can't get another one, done tried. I don't know if it has to do with the seal or what. What is wrong with why? I don't get it. I don't know. I might have to take it back off for some reason. It's not hitting anything in here because I've had the pan on it without the gasket and anything on it. There's no problems with the pump hitting the pan. Never touched it. Never had a problem with it. But there's definitely, most definitely, a gap right here. And I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. Even if I took it off, the gasket right here is in its little slot. I don't understand what is wrong. I may try beating the pan down. Maybe it's bent. Heck if I know. Yeah, there's a gap there too. Kind of recess this a bit. And just like I had thought, sorta, that the little seal that goes on the back of this pan that goes from here to here was what was causing the pan not to sit fully flush. Now I don't understand how or why I couldn't get it to go back on correctly. Tried several different ways and I couldn't get it. It was on there when I took the pan off, so not sure why it wouldn't go back on. But either way, I had another solution. Found this at the junkyard, I think, like long time ago. And I kept it because it's cork rubber sheet gasket material. Look at that. Oil pan. So I took the old seal out. This one that actually fit. The length that is. And was looking. This one's thinner. Just like just a hair. I'd have to get my tool out and measure it, you know, digital caliper in order to really, you know, tell. But I took the gasket seal, cut the gasket out of this, made one that would fit, same length, size, everything, lubricated with RTV, the right stuff. Now I'm gonna have to go buy another tube, but I don't care as long as it seals. And I put it all over it, put the gasket in there, and then lubricated both sides, set the pan down, and before tightening it, I took the RTV and just shot a bunch in there is all I could get all the way around, and set the pan down, torqued it to spec, and then she's good to go. So it takes like 90 minutes to an hour to dry, but it'll be plenty dry by the time we go to fire it up, put oil in it and all that stuff. So it is sealing all the way around. I just can't imagine why it sealed before and it wouldn't with me. So I don't know. All I care about is if it seals and then it don't leak. Alright. Engine transmission's back together. New converter's in. New front pump seal is in. Oil pan's done. Everything is torque spec. Use red thread locker on the bolts of the bell housing and the flex plate bolts. So yeah, it's ready to go in now. Really one last thing I'd like to do, of course I could do it really under the truck, but since I have a little bit of access, might as well go ahead and do it here. Let's put this transmission mount on real quick that I bought for it. The old one that was on it was disintegrated, or not disintegrated, but broke. And this one's actually made differently, so maybe it will sit in there better. Here's the old one. You see the difference here. I mean, there's nothing to this. It's lightweight. This is a lot more heavier. But you see right here where it popped. So it was definitely time for another one. It doesn't sit flush anymore. Well, it's been well, a couple weeks probably since the last clip that you've seen of this thing, and it's in there now. I can't believe it, can you? So there has been a lot of problems behind the scenes here trying to make these headers work, and frankly it's not looking good. I've tried a lot of things. Well, for starters, I've tried forums because I figured, I'm probably not the only one out there that's had to deal with this problem. Let's just see if somebody else has done it and try to copy what they done, or kind of get an idea of what I need to do here, because it ain't working. And well, the problem is the headers are in both sides. I've got 3 bolts in each header on each side, and it doesn't hit the upper control arm. It definitely don't hit on the driver's side, and it's close to the one on the passenger, but it doesn't hit. The things it does hit and what it's close to is what my concerns are and what to do about fixing it. I have no idea, because I don't have the skills for it, don't have the tools for it. Not really had to deal with headers before. This is the first time I've actually dealt with one, and I'm running into a lot of problems. So it's hitting the frame, it's hitting the transmission. The passenger side is very, very close to the transmission on this side. I don't like that, especially with heat. If it's 90 degrees outside, say for instance you go to a parking lot and let it sit there for 30 minutes, whatever, it's cooking everything underneath the body of the cab, transmission wise, because it's so daggone close. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. But it's hitting the frame and all that. Now you can beat the header in. I don't have a problem with that. I'll beat the header in to keep it from hitting the frame and the transmission bell housing. Right where the engine and transmission go together is where it's hitting. So, it's not a problem. But it goes down and kind of curves this way towards the transmission. It needs to curve away from it underneath, and that's the problem. And then as for the driver's side, it's hitting the frame as well, and on it, I would say that and the fact of the shifter linkage, shifter rod that comes from the steering column down to the transmission. It's a straight rod. I'll get that out and show you what I'm talking about. And then the wiring harness that has the tag lights, tail lights, blinkers, backup lights, all in it once together, that goes to the back of the truck. Well, all that runs right above the header, which is going to get hot and going to get melted. The speedometer cable is right next to it, same spot. It's going to melt. The other truck that this came from, Buddy's truck, that speedometer cable was severely melted from the heat. And I don't want that happening to this one. The speedometer didn't work on that truck, and that's why. Look at that. Don't it look so good in there? Especially with the headers. It just makes me sick. It really does. That I can't use them. But anyway, enough of that. You can see where it's hitting the bell housing right there. Not a problem. I'll just beat the pipe in. And then over here at the frame, try to get you in here to really see. You can see where it's hitting. It's not a big deal, and it's barely touching. And like I said, those issues, not a problem. Over here, can beat in the top part of the header, so possibly the shifter mechanism from here all the way down there to the transmission, you can barely see the end of it right there, will clear. If not, maybe a four-wheel drive 2.8 automatic would work. So the main thing is with these headers is these are supposed to be for a four-wheel drive 2.8 5-speed, not an automatic 2-wheel drive. So that's why I'm running into issues. This wiring harness here that every S10 has, see, it goes up to the main plug, runs all the way down the firewall. Right here you got the speedometer cable, and it has like a clamp on it. You can't remove those clamps. They're like welded, or not welded, but kind of made together on the frame. And look how close that is. It hangs down right above, or below the, yeah, right above the header, or below the header, whatever. Another thing too, it's really close to the the bracket that the shifter goes into, that has to lock into there to go straight across to the transmission to put it in gear. I'd assume that this really needs to be pushed over just a bit. I don't like how close that is. It's going to run into problems unless I just really beat in the pipe to clear. But the other side is different. Here's the speedometer cable. It's too fat on the end to get the heat wrap that I bought. I bought like 4 packages of it to help protect the wiring and such. But the thing is it's the type that has to slide over things. It doesn't open up or Velcro together, which would be a lot better to use because when this guy goes here, that exhaust is going to come down and over, which is going to heat every bit of this area right here. And from somewhere of here where my fingers are to here, got severely melted on the other truck. So the other thing is the wiring harness, same thing. I'd have to cut those and then slide it over and then shrink wrap them back together, and I don't want to do that. It also needs some kind of heat shield, which I can't seem to find. I've never really done anything as far as modifying, so I can't really think of anything to use that would protect it from heat and keep the heat down from things. Something else you're going to say, well, maybe the engine mounts are bad. No, they're only 4 years old. The transmission mount's brand new. I just replaced it this time. So it's not that. And no, you cannot wrap these with header wrap. It says online, do not wrap these because, well, they have issues when you do. So here's the part that concerns me a bit. You can see the transmission mount's brand new. Look how close that is to the transmission. Very close. I know I can barely get a finger in between that, and I got small hands. So that's not enough distance for me to say that that's okay to run. Everybody on the forum is like, oh, wrap them with header wrap, or it's your motor mounts, or you gotta take it and heat it and then take a hammer or something and beat the thing over. Well, I don't have those skills or the tools to do it. So I really honestly can't. And the only shop that maybe would be able to do it, that's exhaust shop, is about 10 minutes down the road. And I doubt they would touch it, or if they would, that it would cost an arm and a leg to fix this problem. It sucks, but like I said, that's the only things that hit on this side is the frame and the transmission, and then it's too close to it. I don't feel comfortable with that. It needs some kind of heat shield, or really likely just needs to come over some. It's not angled right. The other truck was a 3-speed automatic, so the transmission was smaller and kind of tucked up more, so it went upward. There was way more clearance. So I'll try to throw that picture in here somewhere if I can, and you'll see the difference of what I'm talking about versus what this looks like. So many things there, you know. It's not too bad, I know. I really know that it's not too bad. But I just don't know how to come up with that. If I had the skills and equipment, or knew some people that would, you know, come and make me a plate, you know, and we'd figure it out, it'd be alright. But I just don't have the ideas or ways to do it, or even what to use to do it either. So we're going to go back to manifolds, and my idea is cut the white pipe as it goes into one, and we're going to make our true dual exhaust that way. I'm not decided if I want to do it exactly as soon as the engine and everything is together and running, or if I want to wait for a little bit and dial everything in and then go after the exhaust, because there's some things that I'm a little concerned about still yet that needs to be, you know, kind of looked over as this is you know, taking on its first drive, which is the transmission torque converter, making sure that it locks up, does what it needs to do, no noises, no grinds, transmission shifts good, fluid's full, no rear main seal leak or the oil pan leak. So you know, things like that. And not only that, what I found in the oil pan, I hope that the engine's still okay, that it still has good oil pressure. We'll find out. And just to show you, those motor mounts are not cracked. That's not a crack. That's how the mount's made. Same thing over here. No cracks in that mount. Somebody said maybe the brackets were different, or somebody requested taken and extended this part to raise the motor upward. That's not going to help my issue, and all that's going to do is take and make the oil pan more slumped this way, and the front end's not going to get, the bearings are not going to get oiled correctly with it like that. It's too much of an incline. Come over here to the clunker, 2.8. I replaced these bolts 4 years ago. Donut gasket looks to be alright. No, that's not alright. That looks toast. So that's okay. I'll just order another one. Great. But this side, the manifold's got a broken off bolt. I got to drill that out and tap it, and then I bought already new flange bolts for it. But I didn't think about a flange gasket because I figured it was still good. I'm going to take these manifolds off, and I fixed this a long time ago when I deleted the smog emissions bullcrap. This one is still in okay condition, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. Alright, so torque converter is mounted to the flex plate. It's bolted down. I had to use 2 washers. And man, I tell you, that has been a pain trying to figure out information on forums and whatever have you of, you know, basically about what it should be. I've never had to deal with one where I had to space it. This is something different for me, especially being, you know, stock application. It's kind of odd. The other torque converter that I had, I didn't have to have spacers with it. Why I gotta have spacers with this one, I don't know. Maybe it needed spacers and I didn't know it, but there was almost, I can get the tip of my pinky in between the converter and flex plate, just about. And I had to put at least 4 washers in between this gap in order to fill it up to see exactly how much of a gap I had, and then measure that, kind of do some math, which I sucked at math, and then figure out that I needed 2 washers, so that way it didn't bring out the converter all the way, but just enough to where it's still locked into the front pump and everything on this side, but then it's got enough here, so that way when the engine flexes and the, you know, as torque goes on and the engine RPMs rise, that this can go in and out without bottoming out in the transmission pump and tearing that up and sending metal into the transmission, because that would not be good. Here's the washers I used. They're grade 8. They should work. I don't think I'd have a problem. Somebody commented and said that I needed to use like shims, converter shims from like Summit. But everybody I talked to a transmission shop, they said just use washers. That's what they've used in the past, so that's what I used. This is the size 3/8, and the other is 9.5 millimeters. As you can see, it's a little blurry, but you get it. So I used 2 of those to fill up the gap, and that should be enough in play or whatever to not have any issues. We'll see how that goes. And maybe that's why I had a transmission whine problem a long time ago, because there was too much, the converter was pulled out too far. You could still feel it engaging, you know, but with the teeth, the notches that are on the converter inside that locks into the pump, you don't want it too far out or you'll run into problems. And that's what I was worried about. So I'm going to put the cover on. The starter's already in. Hopefully I don't have to shim that. We'll see. They're the same flywheel. And I did a lot of Googling. Same flywheel, 82 to 85. I knew that because in 86 to later models, they went to internal balanced or external, whatever it is. I can't remember, vice versa. But you get the point. They changed it in 86 to 93. 82 to 85, same flex plate. 84 to 93, same torque converter. So the manifold, this needs to be drilled out, if I hadn't showed that already. I painted them. It's got header paint on it, so hopefully it'll last. The other paint I used 5 years ago, it didn't last. And then to drill this out, do that, and then they can go on. Actually, I can go ahead and mount this one on because it's ready to go. But that flange gasket, oh my lord, man. This has been a pain to get my hands on. I went through O'Reilly's, and that was a big mistake. Won't do that again. One of the reasons why I kind of stick with AutoZone a little bit more. But anyway, you kind of have problems with vice versa. It really don't matter. But it took them 5 freaking days to get this donut gasket. 5 days. And then when it finally came today, it was wrong. It did not have, see that extra lip that sticks upward right here on the end? It sticks upward. Well, that part locks into the rear of the manifold, so it doesn't fall out when you're trying to install the Y pipe. And so yeah, I couldn't use it, and it was smaller in diameter, so I had to send that back. Luckily, I got smart and I thought, well, I'll go through AutoZone and just order it through them, and of course it came in one day. Why I didn't do that the first time, I don't know. They told me they were supposed to get it the next day, and it never came. Here's the old one. You can see it's had it. It's shot. Because of the, and this was on this side because this is the side that has the manifold bolt that's broken off, so it wasn't really set flush. It's kind of squished to pieces. So that's why I had to get another one. But luckily, I have 2. I had gotten one through AutoZone, and then I ordered one through O'Reilly's. That's what I done, because AutoZone couldn't get me one, but only one. So I wanted one from them, wanted one from O'Reilly's, and this one came and no problems. I went through O'Reilly's 5 days later, it still didn't come, and then I went yesterday, ordered this, and it came today, like it should have came. So I'll get that done, put these back in, pop these caps out of the cylinder head, and get the manifolds put on. Alright, so the manifold's in on this side. All the bolts are in, new gaskets in. I got the starter in, the positive wires hooked up, the wiring harness is hooked up. Made one of these so it would hold the harness up and not touch the exhaust or anything, so there's a good gap right here so this doesn't melt. Put the protective wrap around the starter wires just because, you know, extra precaution. And the ground wire is fixed and it's in. Yes, it's a red wire. I don't care as long as it's a ground and it works. Well, that's all we need it for. So, what else is there? I gotta change something. I gotta change something. I gotta put the other manifold on. I got the hole drilled out and tapped where the bolt broke off, because that sucked. I got a new oil pressure switch under warranty, because there's a video on my channel where I replaced this guy about a year ago. Kind of stupid it went out again, but you know, Chinese junk. I'm gonna take this out because this is for a light, not a gauge. The ones for a gauge, 82 to 85 28, look just like this. And the part number is PS133 is the part number. So the distributor cap and rotor is already installed. It's brand new. I went ahead and bought that. I got to put new plugs in. I bought new plugs. I got to put those in, and then I'll put the wires on. Got a carburetor base gasket. I'm gonna go and put a brand new one on those. Put the carburetor down, bolt it down, get some of this other wiring tied up. I need a few more of these little clips that hold the wiring harness in to its little like groove. Need one right here so it'll hold it still. I hate how this kind of looks crappy, but you know. I gotta put the coil on. I'm gonna put the ignition coil on after I do the Y pipe to the manifold, because there's a whole lot more room and access to it. But few bolts. Here's the tap. It's a 10 mm by 150 is the size, thread size for this guy. So I bought 2 new bolts with springs. I think they were like $5 or $10 each. And then I got donut gaskets, and they're painted as well. So this is pretty much ready to just bolt on. The gaskets that I got are actually really good quality. Pretty thick. So shouldn't have any problems with leaks. Hopefully. We'll see. I painted the end of the bolts, cleaned those up, painted them with the same paint I used on the manifold just so they don't rust. They were starting to corrode. You can kind of see it on the outside. or inside, or the color, or rusty. I didn't like that. Like here's one. It'll really show you what I was talking about. That's how it looked on the outside. So I didn't want a nice manifold put on and then rusty looking trashy bolts on the outside. Yeah, all for looks. Alright, so the oil pressure switch is in, the bracketry is in, both manifolds are in, the white pipe is in, the cat, I'll say, is in, and the whole exhaust, all that stuff is bolted in. Ignition coil is in, that's hooked up. What else is there? I put a brand new base gasket down. And we're going to put the carburetor down right now, hook up the fuel line, and then hook up the sensor here that doesn't do anything. And then this one's the one for the gauge inside. I'm going to leave this unhooked. I'm not going to hook up the alternator yet. I just want to hear it run for a few seconds and check the oil pressure. And then I'll button up everything. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. Maybe just stick the radiator up here and hook it up so it don't spray everywhere. Either that or just run a hose from here to here. But anyway, get stuff everywhere. I'm in the middle of changing the fuel filter. I just figured I would show you because there's no videos out there how to do this stuff on a carbureted 2.8. So this right here, you've got to unscrew. I use a crescent wrench to knock it loose. There's supposed to be like a little nylon washer that seals this, but you could use Teflon tape too. Yeah, there's the little nylon right here on the end. Fuel filter don't even look that old. I don't remember placing it since I've had this engine out, but you always want to make sure that the fuel supply line hole lines up with the hole in this filter, because fuel is going to go through this filter and then into the carburetor. And you also got a spring in here you got to keep up with. Don't lose the spring. The new one is right here from O'Reilly's. There's the part number, 33052. Wix. Giving her all the best abilities I can get for that performance. You know, horsepower. Now this is strange. This has... It's a crappy filter. This has no drain back valve type thing. Like it's just open. Nothing but a cardboard filter. That sucks. Just junk. Made in Taiwan. Who would have known? This is made in China. I guess I'm upgrading, huh? But you can see there's no drain back. So it's like it pushes through fuel through this, but it doesn't allow it to really, what you say, go back out. So filter with the hole straight in. Just like so. The nylon washer's there. The spring will just line up. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. We'll just line it up, push it in. Alright, tighten it down as tight as you can get it, snug. Clean the surface of the bottom part. And that's pretty much it. Set her down. Kind of hard to do. Well, the fuel line's wanting to go in where it's supposed to go. I believe this is still loose. I need to make sure that's tight. Find a 13 line wrench. 1/2 inch. Usually I put Teflon tape on these, but maybe I'll be alright. Well, it's tight. It's extra tight now. So there's little bolts and nuts to put on that holds the carburetor down. If nobody's ever done it, I'll show you really quick how I do it. It's really a pain in the butt because it's not a, you know, a general everyday carburetor. This is something that a lot of people look at and go, that's a carburetor? What is that? Rochester 2-barrel quadrajet. And not a quadrijet, but a Rochester. There's a certain other name for it somewhere, but anyway. So here's the bolts. 13 millimeters is the size. I hate these with a passion. I wish there was some other way to get these carburetors mounted to these, because it's such a pain. You know, there's a lot more room with no radiator supports. I can really come up here and hug the motor, but with it not, you gotta bend over, and that kills the old back. So that bolt on. This one's really the pickle here. You gotta lift like you're flooring it, and then put the bolt in. And this is basically what I use to install them and take them off. It's a 13 millimeter, not a deep weld. Can't be, because it won't fit. 1/4 inch socket set with an extension and a swivel on it, because you've got to get it into here, and it will not go in without a swivel. So basically, take it, flooring it, and then mount it in, turn it until it's tight, move on to the next one. Alright, carburetor is mounted. Vacuum line for that goes to the top one to the far right, vacuum port, all the way over here to the fender for the transmission overdrive solenoid lockup. Can't remember which one of these did the distributor. I gotta look at my phone for the pictures. But the firing order, all that stuff is hooked up. Should be good to go. I'm gonna put the plugs in later. I just want to fire it up, like I said. It's not even gonna run that long. It's already 11 o'clock at night, and my dog's barking. So if you were thinking about getting a lab, don't do it, because you'll deal with barking all night and all day. And when the mail carrier comes, and then when the neighbor goes out to take the trash, and everything. So I gotta go get a battery, hook up to ground, set the battery here, just hook it up, fire it up, let it run for a second or two, make sure there's no leaks here, put Teflon tape on the fuel line, it's mounted, it's done, turn spring. So hook up the distributor, vacuum advanced, and put a battery in it. I've already put oil in it and a filter, so it's pretty much ready to fire it up. Take 2 or 3. Okay, so I don't have spark for some reason. Let me check out why. Let's try that. She runs, and I have spark. I don't know what happened. All I did was look over everything. So I don't know what the heck happened. But listen to that exhaust. Oh my. Way more compression than the other motor had. Alright, that's enough. It's late. And we got like 80 psi. That can't be right. Wow. That thing was smooth. Alright, well, time has progressed. It's been 2 or 3 days later. And, well, you can see a lot more has come together. You know, and I'm not good at time-lapse stuff, so I'm not really figured out how to do that in editing yet, so just bear with me. I'm trying to get better with it. The brackets are on, alternator's on, belts are in, clutch fan. You got the Opal radiator hose. Radiator is in, but it's not finished. I got a bunch of wiring and grounds and all kinds of stuff to hook up. I just sat the radiator support in it. I'm going to try to line up the front end because this whole truck has been wrecked in the front. And if you can't tell, this frame is straight. You come over here, this one, instead of it being straight, kind of goes like this and it's pushed. So it's making everything a little difficult of lining up like it's supposed to. And that's the whole reason of the hood rubbing, the fender, the cowl not lining up. The door gap is wrong. Well, maybe that's a little bit alright, but I've still got a lot of adjustment to play around with to get all this set up, and I'm just not going to bore you with the guys of trying to fix all that. You can see in here where I had it before, that's not right. It's still got to come over just a bit, which is odd because this fender is going to have to be really pushed inward to line up. I don't know. So these are 88 fenders. 93 Jimmy radiator support, and I replaced the bushings from the Jimmy at the junkyard. I've got another set of brackets for the bumper. I got a practically brand new bumper off a junkyard truck that I'm going to put on it. I've washed it up and cleaned it up. I got a 93 fender to put on it. I still got to go back to the junkyard and get another fender. I still didn't get that yet. So yeah, I am trying to line up everything. There's 3 bolts down here that needs to be put in. Still got the main radiator support bolts to put in. I gotta get the radiator to fit right because that's something else. You can see the clearance. That ain't right. So even though, geez, how's that gonna work? Even though this is not, that's odd. So if this is already hitting, and I gotta go more over, that's gonna hit. That ain't right. This needs to come out. Yeah, still hitting. And that's not good because they line up at the bottom. Uh-oh. So if it's hitting, alright, so that's the problem I was having before. I'm trying to line it up going that way when the issue is I need to go this way, even though this is showing that I should go that way. Technically I need to go this way. That's the whole reason this rubs. So this fender is pulled in too much, like I was just showing you how I need to push it in more. Well, that's pushed in too much. The hood comes down. I can't get the alignment right with that, and it's going to rub and hit the fender every single time. And the gap's not going to line up here. This all gets out of whack. This all gets out of whack. There's 2 bolts in here and the door that's got to be adjusted. I really need to take this cowl off. There is 1 or 2 under here. But basically, I'm going to have to really shift everything that way, even though it should kind of go this way, at least by what I'm looking at here. This side is pretty much straight down. This side is not. You see it's off. So that definitely tells me this frame is pushed outward. Not good at all. And I'm going to have some major issues when it comes to put the bumper on, because the bumper is going to hit the fender and the grill, because the front end's going this way and the bumper wants to go that way. So it's going to cause a lot of issues. I don't know. I'm going to have to do a lot of adjustments here, or make some kind of, you see where it's all, beat up. This is not right at all. All this has been beat to pieces, and it shouldn't be like that. Both sides are like that. They're all crimpled and messed up. So, got some trash in there to clean out. But anyway, I need to make some kind of adapter to where the bumper brackets extend outward. Maybe find some bolts that are for the bumper that extend the bumper outward more. I don't know. I got the bumper brackets off the other truck because it was straight and it wasn't beat up. These are not right. These are kind of mangled, and I'm wondering if these were hit and they bent them back. These are the ones that were in the accident. I don't know. Well, another day, another late night. Gotta figure out how the heck to get these junkyard numbers off of here. So the 93 fender is put in on this side. And if you pay attention to some of the upload of shorts on YouTube that I upload every now and then, you'll notice that when I got these fenders, I also picked up this rubber mounting piece that goes in behind the fender that I didn't know mine was missing until I seen that truck. So I ended up grabbing them and put them in. Don't know exactly what they do, but if they help with air gap or noise or something between the door, or maybe water from going in the door and driving it, I don't know. But it had it, and the 93 extended cab that I used to have had these. It's just rubber fill-ins in the gap here, and there's 3 little things that hold it in. Now, I had to drill mine, but the holes were already there. Like, there was an indention to them. I just had to drill them, which is weird that mine didn't come with it. So, drilled them, put those in. Here's little caps. Get the camera to focus. AutoZone for like $4, and there's like a quality of 9 in there, so not bad. And so it's good to go. I did that on both sides, so now the other 93 fender can go in. Alright, it's finally daylight again. So I'm losing my voice for some reason, but anyway, the fenders are swapped out. The grill is just slapped on for now for looks, because the cops around here are kind of stupid when you drive around with no grill and stuff, and they kind of look at you funny like you're some kind of tweaker. But so both fenders are done. They're bolted in. I've got to tweak that one a little bit behind the grill. The part that mounts to the front radiator support is bent where I was trying to get it out because I messed it up on the other truck. So the battery's in, battery's charged, everything else is in, everything else is pretty much kind of set in. I had to modify the fan shroud just a bit, a little bit of tweaking here, down here at the bottom. I had to cut some of it because the fan was hitting it, because the whole front end's messed up. I've got the front end all the way to the right as far as I can get it, as far as it'll go, enough where the bolts will go in. I got a leveler that I'm going to put in, make sure that this is sitting level. I can't remember if they're actually supposed to sit backwards, or the radiator support's supposed to be sitting straight up level. Or even the bottom is supposed to be out more or pushed in more. I don't know, but I know it needs to come this way, and that's as much as I can get it. So, we got cooling in it. I need to bleed the cooling system. So, I'm going to fire it up. And I finally figured out exactly why it kept dying out on me and cutting out and not wanting to start back. In the last few clips that you had seen where I was having no spark and then having spark again, just as much as I figured. This is a brand new part, but you notice there's no thermal paste. Whoever installed this didn't do it correctly, and well, heat got to it, and that's it. So I took the one out of the old engine, put it in here, fired right up. I ain't had a problem since. So we'll get this thing going, bleed the cooling system, and I'll try to take it on its first test drive, hopefully before dark again. Alright. No smoke. Burn like a kitten. Look at that. Sounds good, man. Hopefully no more fan noise, because that ain't good that it's chewing it up. I hate to modify the fan shroud because that's the only one I've got, but you know, it is what it is. The exhaust sounds pretty good. It's pretty smooth. Can't wait to get those duals on here. Really have that exhaust noise sound that I'm looking for. But for now, that works pretty dang good. So I'm going to get it up to temperature, complete this cooling system, and I'm going to take it on a test drive, see what happens. How's that sound? Alright, first test drive. It's in third already. Shifting a little early. Well, I can tell you right now, right off the bat, there's something wrong. I've got a bad vibration. And I'm already up to 210 degrees and I've not even had it running that long. Something's not right. It is creeping up quick. What in the world is going on with this thing? I done bled the cooling system. And now it's going back down. Look at this. Usually it stays right below 210. That's where the other motor used to stay. Right about where it's at now. Good oil pressure. But I got a vibration. Starts at about 30 miles an hour. And then when lockup hits. That's interesting. That ain't good. I feel it in the floor where my gas pedal's at, and I feel it under my seat. And I'm not sure where it's coming from. The U-joints are brand new, transmission mount's brand new. The only thing I could probably think of, which it could be, is those washers at the torque converter. That's probably something I shouldn't use. Maybe it's causing something to be off balance and not right as it's going in a round motion. I don't know. Something's definitely not right. Somebody told me on the forums that I should have used like shims from Summit Racing or Jegs, but I really feel it now. 65 miles an hour. Good gracious. Yeah. Way more get up and go than the other motor. Holy cow. But yeah, something's not right there. So drove it around a little bit, kind of work it in, see how the temperature does, oil pressure, all that type of thing, check fluids. But we gotta definitely check out that drive shaft. Maybe I could put it on jack stands and put it in gear, put a brake to the pedal, and just see if I can crawl underneath and see what it's doing at that speed. See if it's wobbling around too much. The center support bearing I replaced like 4 years ago, and it still looked fine when I put the drive shaft back in. So why I'm having all this issue now, I don't know. The old motor used to really vibrate a lot and shake, but that's because the crank was shot and the bearings were no good. But this is like a really healthy engine, so not quite getting it. We'll figure it out somehow, other way. I've went through some gas like crazy. Wow, I had a full tank when I started this. No, I believe it. I don't think a drive shaft's supposed to do this. It moves up and down. So when I put this together, the lock rings on each side, I didn't make sure that it was squeezed, because I had to take them apart in order to get to the grease fitting that's in here, because I couldn't get the grease fitting between the two yokes. There's no room. So that's why that I have a vibration, more than likely. I hope so. We're about to find out. Now that the drive shaft is fixed, let's see if it shakes anymore. I gotta take some stuff to the dump. There's a lot of things I've been needing this truck for, so it's time to put it to some use. Right into gear, real easy, soft, but it's there. Like, it's tight. There's no jerk like it used to be. Of course, I put about a half a bottle of Lucas in it just because my heavy foot and heat and all that stuff. I don't want transmission issues later on down the road. Like to put electric cooling fans on this, so that way when I'm sitting somewhere too long, or say I go to the parking lot and let it sit for 30 minutes or so or whatever, I can flip the switch, turn the cooling fan on to keep it cool so it's not cooking itself. Get the temperatures down, because the way it is right now, almost 100 degrees outside, you know, it's insane. The temperatures is killing me. Yep, that was it. Oh man, smooth as butter now. Heck yeah, I call that a win and a fix. Are you kidding me? The alternator's not charging now? Oh, come on. I fixed one thing and then something else happens. Isn't that just lovely? That's life, huh? Well, I think I got another alternator in a part stashed somewhere. I'll grab that, throw that on, and see if that fixes it. But by the gauge, it's not even at 13, so it should be at least 14 and a half. That ain't right. Oh yeah, man, this thing's like night and day difference with that. So glad it was something simple. I was worried that it was the torque converter or something else like that. Smooth. And the tires that are on this are crappy. And they got tread, but they got some cracks. So I'm gonna get some tires for this real soon. Getting all the bugs worked out is what it is about projects. It ain't never fixed. And everybody that's a car guy or mechanic, you know that's true. Everything else looks to be good. No more shake, nothing. Awesome. Let's hope we can make it to the dump before they close and before the alternator or the battery dies out on me. Should be fine though. There's really no electronics at all for this. But the only thing I'm using is my tail lights. So, alright, here we go. another few days later, and you can tell she's practically all back together and pretty much done, ready to hit the roads and tear down some old Fords that are still on the road, huh? Nah. So the front bumper is on. It's not perfect. It is rubbing everything. I got clearance here, but then it's rubbing the grill here, and then there's clearance all the way to here and here, but it's hitting the side of the fender. And if it wasn't for the molding that I left on it, it'd be chewing that fender all to pieces. So I'm glad I left that on there, just because of that problem. The brackets that are on it is the brackets that were from the other truck at the junkyard. I was hoping that, that would kind of fix some of the problems. Somewhat did, somewhat didn't. I got the ballast I need to put back on it. That'll finish the whole front end look. I painted these. I wanted to see what it looked like with those. So it's black versus the chrome. And I kind of like the black studs better. So I'm going to paint those and put those on. I couldn't put the corner in bars. The bar that goes from the frame to the bumper. Couldn't do this side. This side is on. You can tell. But the other side isn't. So it does need a bath. I still got to figure out how the heck to get those junkyard numbers off. I want those off of there so bad. The engine bay needs a little bit of a bath. It's a little dusty. And the hood, the whole outside needs a bath. And take some Purple Power and just get in there with a brush, because that is just nasty. I don't like that. Either that or I'm going to mask it all off and just paint the whole inside of the fenders black like I did the fender wells. Air cleaner's back on it. That's originally supposed to be on it because the aftermarket one, with the hot degree weather that we've got, it's going to do nothing but suck in hot air, and that's just going to suck for performance of what I have left. So put this on when I put the hood back on, and not doing AC yet. Going to. I still need to do some other things behind the scenes that I'm going to add on it, like a transmission cooler, fog lights, things like that. I had to add a negative side ground cable. It's like $30 for the cable and this adapter for the side post to ground out the casing of the alternator. Had to go through alternator problems. This bracket being powder coated, painted, it wasn't allowing ground to happen from the block through the bracket to the case. So I thought I had a bad alternator. I had both of my alternators I had tested. Both of them tested fine. Still couldn't figure out the issue. I replaced this plug because it looked burnt. I replaced the wire end for the one that goes in the harness because it looked bad. It was frayed. Still no difference. And when I tested the alternator case with my test light, it showed it had ground. But evidently it must not have been enough. As soon as I took a wire that's about the thinnest of this to the casing and grounded it to the battery, I automatically had charging. So I went to the parts store, grabbed that, $30 later, fixed it, $80 for a brand new alternator, and we're good to go now. It's charging with no issues, running, driving perfect, and all the fluids are good. Everything should be doing like it should. So the truck's been doing well. Been driving it for about a week now, and so far no problems. Other than getting maybe an alignment, the AC fixed, transmission cooler added, fog lights, and maybe some tires soon, eventually. I mean, I got tread for now, so they'll probably do fine. But I need to get the alignment fixed. I'd like to see about getting upper and lower control arms, and because the ball joint boots are busted. I'm thinking about painting the wheels, doing the wheels black, and then taking the aluminum part right here where my finger's rubbing all the way around and coating that with a red strip. So black center caps with black rims, and then a red strip all the way around, and then the little Chevy logo right here. Take a red brush and just line it all the way around a red. I think that'll look pretty sick on this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. But I'll fire it up, let you hear it run, see what you think. Look at that. Charging perfect. Burning like a kitten, man. It's the smoothest 2.8 I've ever seen, ever had. So I want you to go down on that comment section and let me know what you think. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. How to repair videos and more other content on the channel. As always, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one later. And I'm going to put some miles on this old girl and see what she'll do. Thanks for watching, guys. I know it's a big, long video, but hope you enjoyed it. Like I did. Because I am glad to have my old Chevy back on the road.